Reverence, the framework of karma and reincarnation in which we evolve, is neutral. Actions and reactions in the physical arena set energy into motion, forming our experiences and revealing in the process the lessons that the soul has yet to learn. When our actions create discord in another person, we ourselves, in this lifetime or in another, will feel that discord. Likewise, if our actions create harmony and empowerment in another, we also will come to feel that harmony and empowerment. This allows us to experience the effects of what we have created, and thereby to learn to create responsibly. The framework of karma and reincarnation is impersonal and provides for each soul, in response to the actions of its personalities, the experiences that it requires in order to evolve. Therefore, the orientation, or the attitude with which a personality approaches the evolutionary process determines the nature of the experiences that will be required for the evolution of its soul. An angry personality, for example, will respond to the difficulties of its life with anger, and thereby bring into being the necessity of experiencing the results of anger. A sorrowful personality will respond sorrowfully, and bring into being the necessity of experiencing the results of sorrow, and so on. A person who is angry, and yet reveres life, however, will respond very differently to the difficulties of his or her life than a person who is angry, and has no reverence for life. The person who has no reverence for life will not hesitate to strike out against life. The violence that is released in killing another person, or another living creature, is much greater than the violence that is released in speaking angry words. The karmic obligation, the energy imbalance that is created by killing, can be balanced only by the experience of a commensurate brutality. Thus, a person who is reverent will automatically be spared the severe karmic consequences of one who is not. Even if all of our species were reverent, that would not end the need for us to move through our own evolution. It would just change the quality of the learnings within the process of evolution. In other words, if we became reverent this day, we would not be exempt from the demands of our evolution, but the quality of the experiences that we would encounter would be different. We would not harm life. We would still learn the same thing, but in the process of learning, we would not seek to harm or to destroy. Our journey from powerlessness to authentic empowerment would continue, but the nature of that experience would change. We would not encounter the types of experiences that result from a perception of the world that lacks reverence. We see life as cheap. This perception pervades all of our perceptions. When we look at the animal kingdom, for example, we see the activities within this kingdom as verification of our evaluation of life. We see animals kill and feed upon other animals, and we conclude that weaker forms of life exist only to nourish the stronger. We justify our exploitation of life upon what we perceive to be the design of nature. We maim and kill. We create situations in which millions of people starve while we store grain in silos and pour milk down drains. We look upon each other as prey to satisfy our emotional and physical needs. We say, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and that to survive in it we must take advantage of others before they take advantage of us. We look upon life as a contest that produces winners and losers, and we feel no restraints upon us when the needs of other people or other groups threaten us. Our behavior and values are so much shaped by perceptions that lack reverence that we do not know what it is like to be reverent. When we curse a competitor or strive to disempower another person, we absent ourselves from reverence. When we work to take instead of to give, we labor without reverence. When we strive for safety at the expense of another person's safety, we deprive ourselves of the protection of reverence. When we judge one person as superior and another as inferior, we depart from reverence. When we judge ourselves, we do the same thing. Business, politics, education, sex, raising families, and personal interactions without reverence all produce the same result: human beings using other human beings. Our species has become arrogant. We behave as though the earth were ours to do with as we please. We pollute its land, oceans, and atmosphere to satisfy our needs without thinking of the needs of the other life forms that live upon the earth or of the needs of the earth. We believe that we are conscious and that the universe is not. We think and act as though our existence as living forces in the universe will end with this lifetime, and that we are responsible neither to others nor to the universe. It is not possible for a reverent person to exploit his or her friends, co-workers, city, nation, or planet. It is not possible for a reverent species to create caste systems, child labor, nerve gas, or nuclear weapons. Therefore, it is not possible for a reverent person, or a reverent species, to accumulate the type of karma that such activities create. Why is this? What is reverence? Reverence is engaging in a form and a depth of contact with life that is well beyond the shell of form and into essence. Reverence is contact with the essence of each thing in person and plant and bird and animal. It is contact with the interior of its beingness. Even if you cannot sense the interior, it is enough to know that the form, the shell, is merely an outer layer, and that underneath it the true power and essence of who a person is, or what a thing is present. That is what is honored in reverence. Process is honored in reverence. The unfolding of life, the maturation process, the process of growing through and coming into your own empowerment, is a process that needs to be approached with reverence. The cycles of life need to be approached with reverence. They have been in place for billions of years. They are the reflection of the natural breathing of the soul of Gaia itself, the earth consciousness, as it moves its force fields and guides the cycles of life. If these are revered, how could we look at something as exquisite as our Earth's ecology and do one thing that would risk the balance of this system? Reverence is an attitude of honoring life. You do not have to be authentically empowered to be gentle with life or to love life. There are many people who are not authentically empowered but who are quite reverent. They would harm nothing. Often it is the case that they are the most compassionate and the most loving people because they have suffered so much. Whether a person is reverent depends essentially upon whether he or she accepts the principle of the sacredness of life, any way that he or she defines sacred. Reverence is also simply the experience of accepting that all life is, in and of itself, of value. Reverence is not respect. Respect is a judgment. It is a response to the perception of qualities that we ourselves admire, or have been taught to admire. Qualities that are admired by the people of one culture may not be admired by the people of another culture, or by the people of a subculture, or by another generation of the same culture. Therefore, what is respected by some people may not be respected by others. It is possible to respect one person and not respect another, but it is not possible to revere one person without revering every person. Reverence is a perception, but it is a holy perception. The perception of holiness is not one that we use continually. It is one that we apply to religion, but not to the process of evolution or the learning process of the human life. And so we do not approach the need to learn in all of the learning experiences of our lives with regard for their purpose against the background of spiritual development. Perceiving in this way is true reverence, because it allows you to look at what you are going through and to see it within the framework of the evolution and the maturation of your own spirit. It is true reverence, because it enables you to look at all the evolutions that are taking place simultaneously with your own in all of the kingdoms of life and fully appreciate, or at least see very differently, how they unfold. Only when we see through eyes that lack reverence, for example, does the feeding of one animal upon another appear to be a cruel system instead of one where species learn to give to each other, where there is a natural give and take and sharing of the energies between kingdoms. This is ecology, the natural redistribution of energy between kingdoms. It is only our kingdom, the human kingdom, that wants to warehouse energy, to use much more than it needs and to store what it does not, so that the balance of the cycle is disturbed so dramatically. If each of us took only what he or she needed for that day, it would be perfect. Animals do not warehouse like us, except in the case of animals that need to for winter. The perception of reverence allows us to see the interdependency of different species from a more comprehensive and compassionate perspective. It allows us to see the significance of each living creature and its experiences to the compassionate unfolding of the universe. This perspective is much less likely to create violent or destructive responses within us as we grow through our lives, because it reveals in each moment the value of all life. Approaching and regarding life with an attitude of reverence permits the experience of being unempowered, but not cruel. As you work toward becoming reverent, your tendencies toward harming others and other forms of life diminish. As you acquire a sense of reverence, you develop a capacity to think more deeply about the value of life before you commit your energy to action. When you are fully reverent, you cannot harm life, even though you are unempowered. Without reverence, the experience of being unempowered can become a very cruel one, because a disempowered person is a frightened person, and if a frightened person has no sense of reverence, he or she will harm or kill indiscriminately. Reverence is a level of protection and honor about the process of life, so that while a person is maturing toward the journey and through the journey of authentic empowerment, he or she harms nothing. Because we have no reverence, our journey to empowerment often includes the experiences of victimizing life. Therefore, there are victims and victimizers. The process of destroying life while we are learning about life that has characterized our evolution would cease, or at least would be very different, if we approached life with a quality of reverence. It is because we have no sense of reverence, no true belief in the holiness of all life, that life is destroyed and tortured, brutalized, starved, and maimed while we journey from unempowerment to empowerment. If a sense of reverence were brought into the process of evolution, then as each of us and our species moves through the cycle of being unempowered to becoming empowered, the many learnings that are contained within that growing process of evolution would not likely produce violence and fear to the extent that it is now experienced. The destructions of human life, plant life, animal life, and the planet would be considerably diminished, or would cease, if there were an active principle of reverence within our species, if there were the perception within our species, and within each of us, that although we are engaged in evolutionary processes that require personal learning, that does not authorize us to destroy life while we are learning, or because we are. We would not have the karmic energy of destruction, only of learning. Even though learning is contained in destruction, the karmic consequences of participating in violence and destruction are a high price to pay for it. It is not necessary, in other words, to learn what we need to learn and have it cost somebody his or her life. It is not necessary for progress and the experience of progress to cost the destruction of nature. It is not necessary, but without a sense of reverence for life, who cares that it destroys life? Without reverence, life becomes a very cheap commodity, as it is upon our planet now, where the entire process and the sacredness of evolution is not regarded, accepted, or honored. If we perceived life with reverence and understood our evolutionary process, we would stand in awe at the experience of physical life and walk the earth in a very deep sense of gratitude. As it is, there are billions of human beings who are filled with regret that they are on the earth, with overwhelming experiences of pain, despair, discouragement, depression, starvation, and disease. These are the things of our planet. They result largely from the fact that so much of the human condition is without reverence. Reverence is a perception of the soul. Only the personality can perceive life without reverence. Reverence is a natural aspect of authentic empowerment because the soul reveres all of life. Therefore, when the personality is aligned with the soul, it cannot perceive life except with reverence. Approaching life with reverence not only protects the soul from the karmic obligations that are created by personalities that do not honor life, but it also is a step toward moving the personality into alignment with the soul because it brings an aspect of the soul directly into the physical environment. What does the decision to approach life with reverence mean in practical terms? It means challenging the perceptions and the values of a five-sensory world that lacks reverence. This is not always easy, especially for males who have been taught values that serve the accumulation of external power. An authentically empowered male will not be embarrassed or feel less than fully masculine by showing concern for life and for the many creatures on our planet. That is very much the energy of reverence. Therefore, the decision to approach life with reverence often requires courage, not only of men, but also of women who have adopted these values. The decision to become a reverent person is essentially the decision to become a spiritual person. There is currently no place for spirituality within science, politics, business, or academia. To a five-sensory personality that lacks reverence, a reverent businessman or businesswoman appears to be competing at a disadvantage because the range of his or her activities is not unlimited, and a reverent politician appears to be unqualified for leadership in a world where the only power that is recognized is external power. Yet, to the multisensory human, a reverent businessman or businesswoman is a person who infuses a new energy into the archetype of entrepreneur, shifting it from a dynamic that is motivated by profits that are generated by serving others to a dynamic of serving others that is made possible by profits. An irreverent politician is a person who challenges the concept of external power and brings to the political arena the concerns of the heart. Therefore, the decision to approach life with reverence means acting and thinking as a spiritual person in a world that does not recognize spirit, and it means moving consciously toward the perceptions of the multisensory human. To live with reverence means being willing to say, that is life, we must not harm it, and those are our fellow humans, we must not destroy them, and mean it. It means re-examining the way that we treat the members of the animal kingdom that serve us so patiently. It means recognizing the rights of the earth. That the earth has rights is a concept that is not even present in our species yet. An attitude of reverence is the atmosphere, the environment, in which the multisensory personality evolves. It is a sense of richness and fullness and intimacy of being. It creates compassion and acts of kindness. Without reverence, without the perception of the holiness of all things, the world becomes cold and barren, mechanical and random at the same time, and this creates experiences of alienation and acts of violence. It is not natural for us to live without reverence, because that separates us from the basic energy of the soul. Reverence automatically brings forth patience, and patience is the desire to have your needs met first. When your needs are taken care of, do you not then have patience with the needs of others? A reverent person honors life in all its forms and all its activities. It does not think in the terms that are required to produce impatience. Reverence permits non-judgmental justice. The soul does not judge, and so the personality chooses to bring into physical reality another of its soul's characteristics when it chooses to approach life with reverence. The reverent person cannot consider himself or herself superior to another person or to any other form of life, because the reverent person sees divinity in all forms of life and honors it. An attitude of reverence facilitates the transition from the logic and understanding of the five-sensory human to the higher order of logic and understanding of the multisensory human, because, as we shall see, this higher order of logic and understanding originates in the heart. Without reverence, our experiences are brutal and destructive. With reverence, our experiences become compassionate and caring. We shall come to honor all of life sooner or later. Our choices are when that shall happen, and the quality of experience that we shall have as we learn.